Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, or
whatever it is, depending on where you are and when you see it.
So, welcome to our session or our presentation. So, we would like to introduce ourselves first. So, my name is Jatrifia Ongga Sinatrya.
And my name is Uyun, Nishar.
We are from Business Administration,
Faculty of State Polytechnic of Malang.
Yes. So, here we want to present our presentation, of course. And the title is, let me share screen first. Okay. So, we will like to present our paper. The title is Marketing Management Student Reticence in ESP Class, an analysis of student foreign in language anxiety. So first, we will talk about the literature review. So the key construct that we go is from McLintree and Gardner. Is talk about two important perspectives from which anxiety has been investigated. So they believe that anxiety has three stages. So the first one is trait anxiety. We cannot analyze trait anxiety because it's too general. So it's like when we feel nervous because of our phone missing or like our bag is missing, kind of like that. So and then we move to the second level, which is stage anxiety. So stage anxiety means momentary apprehensive reaction. So like when someone proposes and we feel like shock or something like that. So it's like stage anxiety. And then the one that we want to discuss is the last one, which is it's called situation-specific anxiety. The context is well specified, so they have a reason behind it, and the researchers should clearly define it. And we go with the Horwitz and Cope
theory.
Yes, theory. Sorry, it's called foreign language anxiety.
Right. Some of you may have never heard of foreign language anxiety before, or may question why anxiety may exist in foreign language learning. It is actually a concept that is rarely discussed, especially in the language learning. Meanwhile, the main reason why anxiety is a complex matter is because it involves psychological condition of the learners. Yes, it's a complex concept, but it's actually an important one to understand when we teach students foreign language, because we may always address students' performance or students' competence as the only determining factor which influence their performance. Meanwhile, it is actually not. I mentioned previously about psychological conditions. So we would like to take into account this psychological condition as an important factor to investigate. Not only that we want to see performance as a main indicator per se, but we want to investigate anxiety, and we want to highlight it as an important factor in language learning that influences students' performance.
Oh, and reticence.
And reticence, yes. Reticence, the way we understand reticence is that because we mentioned it in our title, right? So reticence is the behavior that in which students feel like they are reserved, so they cannot perform their best English language performance. So they don't feel like they're good enough, so they become passive or they become silent during the class.
Yes. And meanwhile, there are findings which indicate that anxiety has negative effect on student learning. So this one is like supporting our research. So for the example, when feeling anxious, the learners may find their study become less enjoyable. So like us, maybe like everyone, when we found something difficult and we cannot do, we feel frustrated and then we don't want to try it again. Like me, it's like learning mathematics. So it makes me anxiety actually. So yeah, it's kind of going to be less enjoyable. So it's also they will experience problems such as reduced word production, like they don't have any word to speak about, and then they don't have any idea what to talk about, and difficulty in understanding the spoken instruction. So it will be so hard for them when we ask them like something simple, but they cannot process it. And the last one is to find it difficult to respond to to their own errors effectively. So when the teachers show them the mistake they made or teach them to not make another mistake, they still don't get it. In short, some literature suggests that FL anxiety can impact negatively on student foreign language learning. And for the reason foreign language learners are subjected to anxiety, like the Harvard says, there is a three reasons. First, that evaluation according to socio-cultural standards. So it's like because, English is like the second language, and when you talk English too much in here, they will tell that it's coming English or talk too much in English, like showing off, kind of like that. They're able
I
to
felt
speak.
that.
Yeah, we felt that actually, but it makes for some people they still confident to talk, but for some people also it makes them anxious. So that's the point. And then the second one is spontaneous mental operation. The ability to speak a second language well is a complex task. So when they're speaking not in their mother tongue, it's so hard for them to like shape a good sentence or to choose which vocab and which tenses, maybe kind of like that. And also about immature comment in the target language may influence self-esteem. So when they are feeling nervous, it affect their confidence, kind of like that. So because of that, because the reason we got so far, the research question is, we have two research questions. First one is, do marketing management students experience foreign language anxiety in English-speaking class, especially one that focus on presentation, delivery, or delivering? And if any, what kind of anxiety do they experience? So next.
We go to the methodology. So our participants consist of 3 classes, students from 3 classes. Each class consists of 25 students. They are all on the 7th semester. We don't have a good validation for their language qualification at the moment when the research was conducted, but when they started their study, at the first semester, they took the TOEIC entry test. So they were freshmen at that time, and the average level of student at that time was intermediate. So we can assume that they have moved away or slightly away from the intermediate level. So we can take, somehow, we can assume that their language qualification at that moment is at that level. So sorry, the learning context now. So students at the 7th semester, they have completed 6 modules, 6 courses. So they have completed English 4, Communication 1 and 2. These courses focus on basic grammar and vocabulary, and then English for Business 1 and 2. The grammar is now at the intermediate level, and students at that time also had student-led project. So they did business project and they had to present in English, something like that. And then English for Marketer 1 and 2. So students learn all the 4 language skills, but the topics and the activities are more contextualized to business and marketing. By the 7th semester, students had a lot of presentations, business presentations, and they do all of that in English. So with regards to the learning itself, the teaching and learning combine basically teacher-led lecture, whole class, and small group discussion. But these might vary among lecturers. So some lectures may focus on teacher-led lecture, and then the other 2 may be combined at a certain percentage desired by the lecturer. So we cannot really, although they did all presentation within that semester, but learning might vary between one lecture and another. But in general, we can say that speaking was not much addressed in the previous semesters. So students only learn speaking a lot more in the seventh semester. Same sampling was done using convenient sampling method in which population members were conveniently chosen based on their ability to participate.
Okay. And from the question, we go to the questionnaire. So there are three anxiety variables, which is communication apprehension, so the way they communicate, or yeah, kind of like that. And then also test anxiety. So when they cannot communicate better, they will feel anxiety. And also the fear of negative evaluation. So because of the two cannot process it well, they're afraid of negative evaluation. But there is something that we are modified from the original questionnaire. The first one we use the language we use is Bahasa Indonesia. Instead of English, we use Bahasa Indonesia because first it's gonna be easier for them to understand, because we want they answer it like honestly, and they really know what they answer and how the direction they can understand it well. And we want to make them not believe, but like, oh, this is me, oh, this is not me, so they understand. But if we write it in English, we're afraid that they didn't get the idea and they didn't get the meaning of the questionnaire, so it will lead to a lot of absurd result. So that's why we use Bahasa Indonesia. The second one we use that we specifying the question to clearly define that the context being investigated is the speaking class in the present semester. So we really focus on the present semester that use speaking a lot. So they have a lot of presentation, and they know how to speak in front of the class, so they can connect with the questionnaire. And for the record, the questionnaire we took is like before the pandemic, so that's why we can go to the class and speak with our student who do the sampling. And it's also the question related to the presence of native speaker in the class were omitted because it's not relevant with the context and the study. The example of the questionnaire is, I would not be nervous speaking the foreign language with native speakers in my class conducted in English, or I would probably feel more comfortable around the native speakers of English in my class conducted in English. Actually, because the class is not really have a native speaker, they have the local speakers like us. So that's why
problem.
Yeah. So we don't think the question will be fit really well in the questionnaire that we go. So that's why we delete it. And then the procedure is, the participants were approached in person to fill in the questionnaire and complete it online via Google Forms. So we asked them that they want to fill it or not, because sometimes they are afraid it will affect their score. So we just explain it to them, kind of like that. And so
we're going to discuss about the findings. In general, we found that students reported considerably high level of anxiety, since the majority of them considered 12 out of 25 questions as being anxiety provoking. So it was almost half of the questions presented. So some of the questions that they consider to trigger their anxiety is, first, I never feel quite sure of myself when I'm speaking in my classes conducted in English, meaning that they're not confident with their own competence, and then they feel frightened when they don't understand what the teacher is saying. That means our explanation. And then 3 is related to competition, because they keep thinking that other students are better at English than they do. Another reason is about spontaneous mental operation, because they start panicking when they have to speak without preparation in their class, in their English class. And then the next one, point number 5, is that they get so nervous, they kind of they forget the things that they know. So it's also related to their spontaneous mental operation. And then the next one, um,
Well, cannot move. Okay.
right, there you go.
So 6, it's they are upset when they didn't understand what the teacher or the tutor is correcting. So, and then it's also about afraid that the tutor is ready to correct every mistake they make. And also they always feel that other students in their classes connected in English speak better than they do. So they didn't really confident about their capability.
Yeah.
And then it's also the class is moved so quickly, so they're worried about getting left behind. And they also get nervous and confused when they speaking in class conducted in English. Also, they get nervous when they don't understand every word the tutor says. And then they feel overwhelmed by the number of rules they have to learn to speak English, like, tenses, kind of like that. So
It's surprising that things like when we give evaluation, like when we correct their mistakes, we never expected that it actually might trigger their anxiety.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really a new avenue for us.
Yes. So
Right. It is interesting to take note that even in statements that we mentioned previously, those are statements that indicate students' anxiety. The figure is relatively low. So that means not all students rate the same question as being anxiety provoking. So we think that the reason is very diverse. That's why our general conclusion, we go to our general conclusion in which we find out that among all other categories, fear of negative evaluation was indicated as the prominent factor which triggers anxiety, because the the percentage is quite consistent for this aspect. So students in these three questions or situations think that they feel very anxious. First, they never feel quite sure of themselves when they speak in their classes, in the English classes. They feel frightened when they don't understand what the teacher is saying. And then they get upset when they don't understand what the tutor is correcting. So yeah, these three are pretty consistent among all the other situations or statements.
yeah, I think the tutor means important to them.
Yeah, sadly, that's us.
Yeah.
Right.
So from the result, so we have the analysis. So we believe that communication apprehension stem from many sources, and having all our responses mapped out, we come to the following conclusion. So from the communication apprehension, we believe it's not only student factor, but it's also a teacher factor. First one is from the student factor is like a stage fright, which refers to anxiety in a public speaking situation. So, because their issue or they don't believe that their English is good, and then they are afraid being bullied, or they afraid that teacher will give them a bad score, or a lot of factors. They feel like anxious. And we believe it's not the students' factors only. So we believe teachers also have what we can say have a
Contributing factor.
contributing the factor why students feel anxiety, like the proportion in which English is used in the class and how it corresponds to students' ability level and previous learning experience.
Right.
So I think the teacher previous learning experience as a English student, it's also make we believe that we need to take a high standard for them to pass the class. But sometimes we forget that we are not teaching in the English major. English is like a supporting material, so it not really, when we have a high standard and then we give it to them, they feel anxious and feel like anxiety, they will get the trigger. They feel like the anxiety because they are afraid to not fulfill the teacher targets. Also, like a lot of exercise, maybe a lot of homework. It's also like when we are doing the
I
questionnaire,
can relate.
it's like the biggest the biggest anxious
Yeah.
for student, like a lot of homework, a lot of
Mm,
presentation, but
yeah.
so I think the teacher factor is also contribute a lot in
Mm.
student anxiety in learning foreign language. And
Right. So, direction for future research. So, we know that one, we believe that this topic is rarely discussed. That's
mhm,
why we think that there are rooms for further studies
mhm,
in which, for example, future research can identify the reasons underlying these anxiety factors. Is that teacher mainly, or is that student mainly? Or could teachers actually play a role in curtailing anxiety in language learning? So, um, moving the research direction into a more specific anxiety factor
mhm.
would be a good idea. But
Yes.
in our case, we have
Mm-hmm.
made partnerships with Japanese teachers researchers in which we would like to compare anxiety in Indonesian classrooms and Japanese classrooms, because we believe we have somehow quite similar cultural background, because the teaching, most of the teaching still focuses on grammar, although there are some teachers who have moved away from that. And also we think that we have, as an Asian people, we are more reserved and we are quite passive. We think about um, moral, we think about politeness when we talk
Mm-hmm.
in the class. That's why we believe that, we think there might be something within this cultural um, similarities that may influence language learning, especially in this case, foreign language anxiety.
So yeah, that's
That's
it
it.
for our presentation. I hope you are not boring
Yeah.
or you still find it interesting.
Right.
We hope so. I think that's it from us. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
listening or watching our presentation.
And hoping for future partnerships in
Yes,
case you're
maybe.
interested in the same topics like us. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So thank you for
Thank
listening to us.
you.
Stay healthy,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye.